Well, hi, everyone. Albert, I'm sorry. I drove as fast as possible to be here, but everything is ready here. So we are going to start talking about Basque cider, but today I don't want to talk about like traditional or typical Basque cider. I prefer to talk about diversification, which is something very important right now happening in the Basque cider sector or industry. But first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about cider according to Spanish law, because as you know, depending of the country of the nation, the law is different, and so you can understand better what it means. You are used to hear probably about Basque natural cider, which is the largest production here in the Basque country, and also probably in Asturias. But the Spanish law has like different categories on the big main cider category. First of all, it's the natural cider, but natural cider has also some under categories. The main or the most important is the natural cider, and it's like this in the law. It's a product resulting from the fermentation of natural apple juice, whose content in carbonic acids and sugars is exclusively endogenous, and its volumetric, it's BIV, its ABV must be equal or greater than 5%. And its relative pressure inside the bottle must be greater than 0.5 bar at 20 degrees Celsius. So this is the definition of natural cider. But then you have sweet natural cider also, which can have some natural residual sugar. You have also sparkling natural cider that can be done by fermentation, second fermentation in the bottle or in the tanks, like the Charmat method. You have the natural cider with low alcohol content. In those ciders, the alcohol has been removed by physical means, and you have natural cider without alcohol also. So you have all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories under the natural cider categories. And then you have the cider category, which is not natural cider. This is the product resulting from the total or partial fermentation of apple juice. And after the fermentation, you can add sugars or syrups and CO2, okay? So when you see a Spanish cider that it doesn't say natural, it can have added sugar, added CO2, and added syrups. Then under the cider category, you have also extra cider, which is a cider made from total or partial fermentation of natural apple juice. I will let you know the difference between natural cider and extra cider after. You have cider with other fruit juice, so like fruit cider or flavored cider. Well, then you have flavored cider that can be made with adding aromas. Ice cider, you all know that category. Cider cocktail and low alcohol cider. The difference between natural cider and cider is that concentrated juice can be used, is forbidden in natural cider, obviously. Only if you make a sparkling cider, you can add concentrate in the tirage liquor and expedition liquor if you are using Champenois method. And is not allowed in the extra and ice cider either. So you cannot use concentrated apple juice in the extra cider and ice cider. And the same with water addition. You can add water to the juice when it's concentrated, of course, but is forbidden in all the natural cider categories, and is forbidden in ice cider, and you can use it in extra cider, but only to adjust the volume, the ABV. So I wanted to make this introduction first, so you can see that the law in Spain regarding cider, it's a little bit complex, and you have different options. But it's important for you to know that if it doesn't say natural cider, extra cider, or ice cider, it can contain added sugars, added CO2, and it can be done from concentrate. Okay, so okay, after I told you this, I would like to talk about how the Basque cider industry is working to diversify the products and not only producing natural cider. So we are going to see what kind of new products are the Basque cider houses doing right now. So I'm going to share in a moment a little presentation with you, because I have some ciders here that I want to show you. But in order to show all the cider that different cider houses are making, I have a little presentation. So, well, first of all, we are going to talk about the sparkling ciders. Sparkling ciders are not the main ciders produced in the Basque Country. In Asturias, there is a stronger tradition making sparkling ciders, and in both cases, this tradition comes from the 19th century, from the end of the 19th century, where both Asturias and the Basque Country started to make natural cider. I'm gonna show you some. Okay, can you see my presentation now? Yeah. Okay, so these are some labels from. Okay, these are different labels from all sparkling ciders made in the Basque Country from the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. As you can see, one of them is called La Vasco Argentina, the other one is Euskaria, and there is another one called Sidra Vascongada Michelena y Urbina, made in Oyarzun, near here.
Sorry, Haritz, I'm just going to jump in. We can't see your screen share.
You can
try that again.
You cannot? Okay. Okay. Can you see something now? No.
No, nothing appearing.
Okay. And now?
Yep, you've got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for letting me know. So, okay, these were the three labels I was talking to you. These are from the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, and they are called Euskaria and other names. As you can see, one of them is called La Vasco Argentina because this cider was very popular in the Basque community living in Argentina. As you may know, the Basque community has quite important diaspora in the United States and in South America, and also in Australia and in other places. And so it was a very important market. And actually, some Asturian cider makers started using Basque names for their products, so they could sell them to the Basque community. But the Asturias sparkling cider industry was much more successful, and nowadays you probably know El Gaitero, which is the largest sparkling cider producer in Spain, and they still keep selling a lot to Argentina, for example, where it's consumed primarily in Christmas. So, okay, I would like to go back to. Well, I'm gonna talk with the presentation, and so nowadays in the Basque Country, in the last I don't know 10 years, more and more cider houses have started to make sparkling cider, which is not it was not very usual in previous years. Let me see if I can share it. Okay, so here you can see some of the brands producing sparkling cider. Then more and more cider houses are starting to do that. When I was in Ross Cider Festival, I brought one of them, the Astarbe Bayur sparkling cider, and there were like 100 people that were able to taste it. So I'm gonna explain a little bit each of them. Well, first of all, you have in the middle the Petritegi sparkling cider. This cider house is one of the big boys of the Basque cider industry. They make 3 kinds of sparkling cider. The Brut Nature, which has been matured for 9 months in the bottle on its lees. Then they have the Extra Dry, which has been also matured for 9 months. And then what they call the Reserve sparkling Petritegi cider, which has been mature for 18 months on its list in the bottle before the degorging. Then you have the aforementioned Astarbe. They make 2 different ciders. I really like this one. One is the regular one, which has been mature for 12 months on its list before the degorging. And the other one is Bayur 24, which has been mature for 24 months. And then this one is the second from the left. And then we have another brand. It's called Oyarte. They also make sparkling. They also make ice cider. We will see later. And they are making very interesting sparkling cider called Ama, which means mom in Basque. And it's also the name we give to the sediments of the cider. The Ama is the sediments of the cider. And then you can see the first from the left and the second from the right, 2 brands, Chopignondo and Bordaccio. These 2 brands are made in the French Basque Country, in the Basque provinces under the French administration, and where they have some similarities to French sparkling ciders, because as you may know, in France the law is different, and you cannot call cidre to something that has more than, I think it was 1 gram of volatile acidity per liter. And as you know, the Basque and Asturian cider have a higher volatile acidity in terms of acetic acid. It's allowed until 2.2 grams per liter. So if you make traditional Basque or Asturias style cider, you cannot call it cidre in France and in the French Basque Country, which is something a little bit weird, because in the French Basque Country they also make traditional Basque cider. So it's usual to find French style cider in the French Basque Country. And actually the cider maker in Chopignondo, he's from Brittany, so he's like a mix between Basque cider and Breton cider. I'm trying. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can see me or how I can go back to my video, but well, we are going to do it like this.
All right. Yeah, if you just click on the stop sharing icon at the bottom, it should give you the chance to cancel that.
I see.
You've got it.
Okay, very well. Okay, so those were the main sparkling ciders make here in the Basque Country. I didn't tell you about Basajaun is from Bordaccio in the French Basque Country. They make dry and medium dry sparkling cider, and Chopignondo makes a medium dry sparkling cider too, called Chopinondo Petilant cider, Cider. So, and there is another one in Basque, which is in another province where they make smaller quantities of cider, and it's called Iturrieta, and they also make sparkling cider. Okay, so let's go to the next category, which are ice cider. Well, I have here some sparkling cider, so you can see this is Bayur. I was talking to you about. This is what we tasted in Ross Cider Festival. And of course, also I make some homemade cider, and I like to experiment. So 2 years ago, I made this one. It's called Marigalanta, and this one ancestral method. This is a pet nut, and this one is mine from the last harvest, and it's also this is bottle condition with sugar, and it's made with French and Basque apples. So as you can see, sparkling cider is a category that we are exploring a lot right now in the Basque Country. But let's go to talk about ice cider. I guess it's something probably you in the UK are interested, because I know many ciders, ice ciders made in the UK too, including Once Upon a Tree of Simon, and also I think Pierre ice cider or ice perry. I don't know how to call it. So I think it's a trending category all over the world, and also here in the Basque Country has been quite successful in the past year. In the past years. So right now we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ice ciders made in the Basque Country, as far as I know. Maybe some cider houses are trying to make some ice cider too, but these are the ones that are in the market. One of the most famous is Malus Mama, and this is a very exclusive ice cider, which is not easy to buy. It's intended to be sold mainly for high-level restaurants, and it's quite famous, having been featured in international media and in many newspapers. Then we have Ollarte ice cider, which is from, I will show you the pictures later. It's made by the same cider house that I told you before, that makes sparkling cider called Ama. And we have also in the French Basque Country, Biots and Mocofin, which I'm not sure they are exactly ice cider, well, but because I know they leave the apples mature for long, so they have a natural sugar concentration. But I think Mocofin they don't freeze the juice, so they don't make a cryo concentration. But the result is similar to dessert cider or an ice cider. They have two, Biots and Mocofin. Biots, I think it's an ice cider, and Mocofin is made with very late harvest apples, but not frozen. And then we have one of the most famous ice cider also here in the Basque Country is Visigosho from Sapiain Cider House, another big boy of the cider industry, and they are also my customers. I work for them in marketing consultancy, and this one also we tasted also this one in Ross Cider Festival, and has been awarded in many cider awards, like Frankfurt, here in the Basque Country, in Sagardo Forum also, I think in the States, I don't know if it was in the Finger Lakes, and also in London in the International Cider Challenge. So this is the one I know the best, and I can tell you a little bit more about how they decided to do it. When the Sapiain family, Mikel Sapiain and Egoitz Sapiain, went to Chicago to CiderCon, they knew this special cider and decided to make it here in the Basque Country. And they did more than one attempt, and I think the first weren't successful. But they realized that we have here an apple that could be perfect for making ice cider. This apple is called Resilla, and it's kind of like a local Rainet variety. And so it's a winter apple, and it's one of the most appreciated apple, both for cooking as an eater and also for cider making. It has a high acidity and also a high sugar content. So it's perfect for making ice cider. But here in the Basque Country, we usually don't have, the climate is not cold enough so the apples can freeze on the trees. So we have to use artificial methods for freezing the juice in this case. So most of the ice ciders here are made by cryoconcentration. So the juice is frozen after the apple has been pressed. The Resilla apple, it was customary here in the farmhouses to keep this winter apple in the barnyards, and it doesn't get rotten, so it concentrates all the sugars, and it's sweeter as the time goes ahead. So is what they do for the ice cider. First, they leave it mature and concentrate all the sugars and flavors. Then they press it, and then they freeze the juice for fermenting. I think this one has 120 grams of sugar per liter, so it's quite sweet, like most of the ice ciders. And it has a 10.5 ABV. So it's really aromatic. It reminds to baked apples, and it's perfect to pair with dishes like perhaps foie. It works also perfect with desserts, and well, it's a very, very good product. I'm gonna show you the different the different ice cider made here in the next. Okay, these are the ice ciders I was talking to you. You can see, right? You see? Okay, I'm gonna put the full. Okay, the first one is from the left is Malus Mama, the very famous. The other one, the one I was talking to you now, Visigosho. Then I didn't talk to you, but this one in the middle is not an ice cider, but an fire cider. So the difference is that they boil the juice, they don't freeze it for concentrating the sugars, and then they ferment it. I think Pilton in Somerset also makes an ice cider. The next one is Bios from the French Basque Country, from Bordaccio, and the last one is Oyarte, which I think is also made, is a single variety also, and made with Resilla apples. This Rainet, this winter apple, very appreciated here. So let's go back to the. Okay, I'm learning how to do it. Okay, so let's talk about Perry a little bit. Perry is not a tradition here in the Basque Country. What I've heard that it was customary to mix some pear juice with the apple juice formerly to make the traditional Basque cider. I guess, I don't know, 100 years ago, they had different fruits, and since you can mix pear juice and apple juice, what they had around, they use it and they ferment it together. But nowadays is not typical from the Basque Country, and you won't find, you will find only one cider house making pear cider or pear. We call it pear wine here, because as you know, sagardoa in Basque means apple wine. So perry would be udardoa, which is pear wine. This is very special because it reminds a lot the typical Basque natural cider with high volatile acidity for you, and with this little fizzy, this natural CO2 as a consequence of the fermentation. And the only one making pear cider is Araeta Cider House here. Later I will show you the bottle. Okay, so let's talk about another thing that they are making here in the Basque Country. Again, is Sapiain Sagardoa, and last year they produced a very special. This is natural cider. This is Basque natural cider, but it's a single orchard natural cider. So this is made with apples from a single orchard. Cider houses here, depending of the size of the production, usually work with their own apples, but also they have different providers, different farmhouses providing apples to the cider house. So this one is made with one provider that is located in Tolosa, and they are specialized in bitter apples under the Basque apple varieties, which what for us is bitter, for you probably is not that bitter, because here we don't have the bittersweet apples. We have sharp or bitter, and bitters are not as bitter as they are in the West countries. But for us, the result is quite different from the typical Basque cider. It's less acidic and a little bit more astringent. So very interesting. Okay, and another trend right now is making what I would call apple wine. These are ciders made using winemaking techniques, probably with higher alcohol content, and many of them have been barrel aged. So barrel aging is not usual here in the Basque Country either. Nowadays we use a lot of stainless steel tanks or fiberglass tanks, more stainless steel, I think. But before the arrival of stainless steel, they were used huge chestnut wood barrels. And the reason that chestnut was used was probably because it was one of the wood you could find around, but also because it doesn't give a lot of character or flavor to the cider. The typical Basque natural cider is a young cider, very fresh, fruity. So usually we don't look for like high tannins or barrel aging or wood flavors. But nowadays there are like at least three cider houses making barrel aged ciders. One of them is again Bordacho, and they make chalaparta, which is slowly pressed, cleared, and then fermented in barrels and amphora for 10 months. And they use indigenous yeast cultures. Then there is another cider house. We haven't talked about it yet. It's called Garciategui, and they make ane using, again, wine making techniques. And it's very high in tannins for us. It has been fermented for 6 months and matured in wood cask also. And then there is another one, probably the first one I know that started making barrel-aged Basque cider. The base is Basque natural cider. I guess they use some kind of, well, Alistair is inviting me to a meeting. Okay, I don't know. So you let me know in the messages, please. This one is called the cider house is called Urbitarte, and the cider is Gentilla en Lurra, and this is a single variety, and it has been slightly aged in French oak barrels. I will show you right now these different ciders I was talking about. Please let me know if I am on time or if I have to shorten my presentation. It's not, it's just a few minutes left. So, well, this one is the single orchard cider called Johannes de Sapien as a tribute to their ancestor from the 16th century that we know he was already making cider. And this one is the only perry I know here in the Basque Country. And these three are the what I would call the apple wines. You can see also the labeling and the bottles are different from what we are used to in Basque natural cider. From the left to the right, Ane of Garciategui, Gentilla en Lurra from Urbitarte, and Chalaparta from Bordacho in the French Basque Country. Well, we are talking about trends or diversification and how the very traditional Basque cider houses are moving towards new products or new ways to market their product. And one of them, which is not usual at all in the Basque Country, is selling cider in cans. You can see here three examples. The first one is Gurutzeta from Astigarraga, and the third one in the right is Cupela, and both of them I think they are produced to export, probably to the States, to the United States. And the first one canning Basque natural cider was Soyarte. We have been talking about this cider house before too. You can see it's in the middle, quite modern labeling. And I think this is going to be a trend in the following years also. I think many cider houses will move and start making, canning their ciders. Actually, it's quite easy to transport. It's much easier to send it via courier or exporting, and I think it has a very promising future. Okay, and for finishing, I think I'm almost 45 minutes. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so I think, well, there is another category in the Basque, in the Basque cider industry, which is flavored cider, this category that has many detractors in the cider industry, but it's a reality. And here, Chopignondo from the French Basque Country in Ascain, they are making different ciders, flavored ciders called Calipoco. One of them has lemon juice and the other one has apricots. And then in another province, in Araba, in Cuartango Cider House, where they make the fire cider, they are also making Sagarcho, which is a cider with lemon juice also. I haven't tasted any of them, to be honest. But at least they are ciders made with natural ingredients, natural, not from concentrate, at least the apple juice. And I think it's interesting maybe for young consumers to join the major cider categories. Okay, and then, so I think, Simon, I have a little bit more time, so let's talk also Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, we've got a few minutes. I've got a couple of questions, but please,
okay.
more to present. We'll come in at the end with a handful of questions that have been asked.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll let you carry on and finish your presentation.
Okay, just a few minutes more. Well, another thing that we are making here in the Basque Country is apple brandy, like in many other places. And there are three brands making apple brandy. Sapiain again, making 3 kinds of apple brandy from distillating cider. This one has been barrel aged in oak casks for at least 5 years, and it's called Haritz, which means oak or oak tree, and it's my name also, Haritz. They also make Sagardos Leblanc white, just the pure distillation, and another liquor, kind of pommeau. They mix or they macerate with apples, and it's lower in ABV. Cider, another major cider houses here, is making also Señorío de Vermont, and it's another distillation of natural cider. And Chopignondo, they are also making Berrogue, so 3 cider houses distillating cider. And I think that's all. I have many other topics to talk about, but I think it's enough, and maybe it's better if you can ask some questions.
That's brilliant, Haritz. Thank you very much. That's a really good, very rapid overview of the new styles that are appearing in the Basque Country. I find it absolutely fascinating. And I have had the pleasure of visiting Basque Country and Asturias, but some years ago, and I know the was starting to appear when I visited. I can't remember how many years ago, but it's a few years ago now. So it's interesting to see the explosion in styles and packaging that you're seeing. I didn't know natural cider could be in a can. Can that be sold as natural cider within the Basque Country? I thought there was legislation with the bottle shape.
No, you can sell natural cider in a can. Yeah. Actually, the 3 examples I showed to you, they are all of them natural cider. Yeah, it's allowed. Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Law doesn't say anything about bottles or cans. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I misunderstood that. We've got a few questions. We'll just run through them. Okay. So one here from Rita. Hi, Rita. Is there any major difference between Basque and Asturian ciders? Do you use different apple varieties, or are they same in both regions?
Yes, I would say it's a similar style. What you probably call Spanish style cider, because the main difference from other cider is the volatile acidity, the acetic acid contained in the ciders. But also what differentiates us from other ciders around the world is our native apple varieties, and also the way we make cider, and our microflora in the cider houses, our native yeast. The difference between Asturias, the main difference between Asturias and Basque cider is probably the apples, because we have different apple varieties, both local native apple varieties. And there are slight differences in the cider making too, regarding the maceration of the apples before pressing, but I think the differences can be big also between 2 Basque cider houses or 2 Asturian cider houses. So I would say the style is similar. Perhaps it happens the same in the West Country with Somerset, Herefordshire, or Worcester. I don't know. I know probably you use the same apples sometimes, and sometimes you don't. But I guess there are slight differences, and you can tell better than we do. So yeah, there are some differences, and mainly I would say is the culture, and also the apple varieties used.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are parallels between Somerset and Herefordshire, very broadly speaking. Some fantastic ciders coming from both regions, but we won't get into that discussion right now.
Okay.
I've got an anonymous attendee who has asked, the acetic acid levels mentioned are quite high for the century contribution. Is this desired and accepted by the consumer? And are your ciders also in this range?
Sorry, I didn't understand very well the question. Which is the question? I
So
know
you're
it's
talking
about
about the VA, the acetic acid levels that are present in there. I know you mentioned 2.2, was it, grams per?
2.2.
Yeah, is the maximum, which is, it's pretty high. I think certainly most of our ciders would rarely get above 1. So I know that it's quite a surprise to a UK palate.
Yeah, I see.
On first drinking Spanish ciders. But I don't know if you want to have a comment on that. I know it's very much a tradition and understood by the culture there. But do you want to have your input?
Well, the volatile acidity, I think, is one of the characters of our cider, and actually people is used to that. And if the volatile acidity is too low, perhaps they will say, "Oh, this cider is a little bit like flat or something like that." But also, I think in the last years, this has been controlled more than 50 years ago in the Basque Country. Keeping volatile acidity about 1.5 perhaps when you bottle is, I think it's a good idea, because later probably will go higher in the bottle, and you don't want to go over 2 grams per liter. But also I think the Basque natural cider is also quite sharp, not only because of the VA, it's also because of the apple varieties used. So the total acidity is quite high also. I mean the fixed acidity. And also we say here, you are a winemaker too, and I know in the wine industry, talking about 2 grams per liter of VA, it's crazy. But I think the effect in our kind of cider and in wine is quite different. I guess you have tasted Basque natural cider, and also take into account that Basque natural cider is usually drunk while eating, and this acidity, this VA, and also the fixed acidity, cleans your mouth a lot and allows you to keep eating and keep drinking. So I think it's a very good combination when you are pairing some food with natural cider. But I think the levels right now are under 2 grams per liter and keeping probably in 1.5. And we don't want to be too acidic either. But we are used to it also.
I think once you've experienced that style of cider with food, the way you drink it in very small measures, a sip at a time, keeping it fresh and lively, it just works so well, doesn't it? And it really does. I mean, my mouth's watering just thinking about it now. That real citrusy blast. I'm interested to hear about the lemon juice addition on one of those ciders, because we've already got that high acidity generally in there.
More acidity,
even more. Excellent.
I haven't tasted it. I will tell you. I will let you know.
A couple more very quickly. I know we're right at the end of the session now, but just to answer these 2. Dave Sanders asked, can you confirm the name of the apple used for the ice cider, the one particular variety you mentioned?
Okay, yeah. It's called Resilia. I think I can write it maybe here in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great. Pop that in the chat. That would.
I have a lot of bottles here, and Resilia, or it has 2 names, or Ibarbi Sagarra. Sagarra is apple. So Resilia is also the name of a town here in the Basque Country. So is where probably this variety was where they started to grow it. So yeah, it's a reinet. If you can find it, you can Google it, and I think you will find it. And it's kind of a small reinet, very, very appreciated. It's a late, it's a winter variety or late harvest variety, and it works very well for blending with other apples when doing natural cider, but also for ice ciders.
Brilliant. And one last one then from Andrew here. How is Basque or Asturian cider thought of in wider Spain? Is it reaching more people in the last few years?
Yes, I think so. Both in Asturias and in the Basque Country, I think 90% of the cider is consumed here. And in the case of the Basque Country, probably in one of the provinces, Gipuzkoa, where I am right now, and which is the highest, it's probably the 90% of the production of the Basque Country too. But we see there is more and more interest in Spain about cider, and especially Asturian or Basque cider. And actually, it's good to see how many regions where they didn't have tradition of making cider, but they grow eaters or eating apples, they are starting to make cider also. So in Catalonia, for example, there are already some cider houses making cider, and very interesting. Also, well, in other provinces which are not the north of Spain or the Cantabric Sea, located in the Cantabrian coast, and also it's curious to see how in Canary Islands also they are making cider. You would say that's Africa, no?
Yeah.
But they have high mountains, so they also have cold in the north part of the island, and they have I think they started planting reinettes apples like, I don't know, 15 years ago, with the help of the European Union. And now they are making very interesting ciders too, and also in Andalusia. So the interest on cider is increasing fast. Mm-hmm.
Good to hear. Good to hear. One really has to be the last one because we're running a bit late now. So Chris George has popped on a question. I'm curious about the origins of these low pH ciders, so high acidity ciders. Is it to do with preserving the juice in a warmer climate, or the available indigenous varieties?
Sorry, the question is? I'm sorry.
Okay, so he's asking, is the low pH, the high total acidity of the Basque ciders to do with the varieties, or is it more about a climatic choice?
No, I think, well, in terms of acidity, we have the volatile and we have the fixed acidity, but we use a high quantity of sharp apples for making traditional cider. So the mix of this fixed acidity and the volatile acidity gives, as a result, a very, very acidic cider. It's not only the VEA that is working in this acidity. But yeah, I mean, about the VA, I think it's more about the indigenous yeast. The Basque natural cider usually goes through malolactic fermentation, so the acetic acid can be a byproduct of the malolactic fermentation, because the lactic bacteria can create some acetic acid, not only the acetic bacteria. So, but I'm not an expert cider maker. I have some knowledge, but I'm not a maker. So, but I think it has most to do with the environment, with the natural yeast, and also with this malolactic fermentation, where the volatile acidity is produced. And I guess also you have to leave a little contact with O2, with oxygen, to allow this acetic acid to develop. So it's a combination of different things, I would say.
It's really interesting. I know in the States there's a lot of people that are inspired and love your ciders. I don't see them often in the UK. It's usually when you come and visit, and thank you for that, because it's great to be able to share your ciders. But I'm really pleased to see that Albert is making their first cider with Spanish varieties. So
yeah. I
going to get some of that flavour soon.
Actually, the Basque-inspired ciders was one of the other subjects, and I think also in not only Albert but also I think Rebel Root cider. They have one called Wild, and I don't know if it's inspired in Spanish, Asturias, or Basque cider, but also I think it's quite wild and acidic. And hops also in London, they made a Basque or inspired cider, and they have the big barrel with the choch also.
Yeah, and we didn't mention choch, so yeah, that's a whole session on its own, isn't it? We are going to have to close it there. Haritz, thank you so very, very much for joining us and giving us that presentation. I could listen for hours. I'd love to be able to taste it as well. Next time we'll make sure we can get some of the Basque ciders in our tasting case.
You all are invited to the Basque Country as soon as the health situation makes possible to travel. So, and I hope to go to the UK soon too.
Oh, we'll make you very welcome.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you ever so much. Bye-bye.